Hey everyone, and welcome to episode whatever the fuck of the Skull Mug. I don't remember how many I've done because I've been really slacking on doing these lately. I have so many beers piled up, ready to be drank, that I don't know when I'm ever going to fucking find the time to do it. But I'm going to be doing something different on this episode. I feel like I say that every single time, but this time it's actually real. Because I'm not doing a normal store-bought beer. I'm actually doing something that was given to me and my partner recently by my partner's dad, and that is homemade ginger beer. Alcoholic ginger beer, not the stuff you get in like a grocery store or whatever that's non-alcoholic. It's quite strong, let me tell you. And as you can tell, we've already put quite a big dent in it. There's barely anything left, but I'm going to finish it off here today because fucking why the hell not? I'm off today, so we're going to get a little bit wasted. Let's do it. It smells like good, but also incredibly rank at the same time. Let's fucking give this baby a pour. Yeah, this is going to make me considerably buzzed. So, in case you're wondering about the taste, which I'm sure you are, otherwise why would you be watching this? It's bitter as fuck. Like, it tastes more like drinking like a liqueur or something like that than it does drinking a beer. But I mean, that's the point of ginger beer, right? Ginger beer isn't like actual beer, it's just called that. But it's very bitter, it's very sweet. It tastes kind of like Pineapple Crush, if you've ever had that before. The thing is with Pineapple Crush is that you can only really get that in Newfoundland and some other maybe small remote areas of the country. I don't know why Pineapple Crush is associated with Newfoundland or why you can only get it there. Because I mean, Newfoundland isn't exactly known for having fucking pineapples or palm trees, right? I mean, it's mostly boreal forest and rocky coastline. This shit's good though. It's like drinking Pineapple Crush mixed with dish soap. Quite good. But what do I want to talk about today? The thing I want to talk about today is vaccine passports. And the reason for that is because I'm sick to fucking death of people bitching and complaining about them. So in case you don't know, here in Quebec we have a vaccine passport system that was introduced at the beginning of September. And what it basically does is if you are fully vaccinated, then you get a QR code, right? You get a QR code for your first dose and you get one for your second dose as well. And then you are allowed to go into restaurants, cafes, bars, whatever the fuck, and basically live life normally. Like, the only difference between now and before the pandemic is that you still have to wear a mask and you have to scan this little thing whenever you go into one of these places and sit down. But that's the thing. That's the fucking difference. That's the big thing that people aren't taking notice of, is that you only have to scan the QR code if you're sitting down. So, if you want to go and get a coffee, if you want to go get food to go and do that kind of thing, you don't need to fucking scan the vaccine passport. You don't need to have that. You don't even need to be vaccinated. You don't even need to have one dose or any dose. You can go in with a mask, order a coffee, and get the fuck out of there, and everything is fine. But if you want to sit down and you want to do that kind of thing, like, you know, I personally really like going to cafes. I go to cafes a lot to do writing. That's where I do most of my album and film reviews. That's where I do a lot of heavy NFLD work, is at cafes like near my area. I'll just walk out there early in the morning, spend like 2 or 3 hours there, get that shit done, and then get the fuck out. And if I want to do that, I have to scan the QR code, and it literally takes like 2 seconds. And the people behind the counter don't give a shit, except for the fact that, like, you know, they have to do it to keep their job. Most businesses are very compliant with this because they want to have a safe environment for their customers and they want to stay open. In case you don't remember, back at the beginning of the pandemic, many of these places were forced to shut or change a lot of different measures about how they work and how they operate, cut staff, cut pay, do all kinds of things in order to survive the pandemic. And a lot of them didn't. A lot of them ended up getting shut down. By getting shut down, I mean they closed because they went out of business because they weren't making enough money. Because nobody wanted to go out to these businesses, and also there were restrictions put in place on what places could and couldn't stay open. So in terms of being from like a business perspective, it makes total sense that that Quebec would introduce a vaccine passport system to allow these businesses to stay open and allow vaccinated customers to come in and do as they please while keeping unvaccinated people out. Like, it makes total sense from a business perspective compared to what happened at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, what irritates me and what people don't seem to fucking understand is that you don't need a fucking vaccine passport to go to a grocery store, okay? Anything that's an essential service, okay, so that's grocery stores, gas stations, depots, what else? Hospitals, of course. Anything like this. You don't need to be vaccinated to go to these places. Like, people seem to have this idea in their head that, like, oh, now the government is overstating their rule and they're putting in all these measures where they're saying, oh, you need to be vaccinated or else you can't do anything. Stay home and rot. It's like, no, that's not what's being said. Now, my personal opinion, yeah, that's what I think. Because I'm fucking sick to death of the anti-vax movement in Canada and the United States and other parts of Europe and Australia as well. It seems to be mostly a white thing, if we're being honest. It's mostly a bunch of fucking dumb hogs who they bought into some shitty propaganda, unfortunately. And I want to be very clear about this. Part of me is very sympathetic to where they're coming from, because these people are victims of the Fox News right-wing alt-right propaganda network that has coated the entirety of our culture like a giant cobweb. Okay, and these people are victims. They're sick. They're afflicted by brain rot that has been induced by people like Alex Jones, people like Paul Joseph Watson, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these fucking popular alt-right figures who align with anti-vax movements, even though most of them are double vaccinated themselves. So, I mean, that should tell you exactly where they stand on this issue. It's quite obvious that they're mostly grifters. But when these people get COVID and these people get sick and they die, I don't give a fuck. I will make fun of them. Because these are the ones who are inflicting suffering on people. These are the ones who are infecting people's minds and making them think that the vaccine is either going to give them like a 5G chip from fucking Bill Gates or some shit like that. Like, none of these conspiracies make any sense. Most of them stem from QAnon, which, if you really look into the beliefs of QAnon, a lot of it stems from Nazi ideology. I realize that that's kind of a popular term. People like to say, they're like, oh, this person's a Nazi, this person's a Nazi, that person's a Nazi, everyone's a fascist. But like, when it comes to QAnon, when you look into the origins of their belief system, it is very explicitly related to Nazis. It's very explicitly anti-Semitic in nature. Like, they're literally, their ideology is literally based upon the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is one of the founding texts of Nazi ideology. So when you consider that all of this way of thinking in terms of being anti-vax, when it comes from this white perspective, whether it's conservatives or liberals, is coming from that, like, that's really, really fucked up. And the fact that most of those people are calling us the Nazis, calling the people on the left who are very pro-vaccine passport, pro-mask, fascists, like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And when you actually think about it for 2 seconds and criticize it, it all falls apart. It all falls to nothing. And what disgusts me the most is that there are so many people who I personally know, who I thought were cool at one point, who have turned out to become these libertarian dumb fucks who think that having to wear a mask and getting a vaccine and the vaccine passport is equivalent to fascism, which it's not. It blatantly isn't. It's a matter of public health. We've been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic since March 2020 in Canada, and a little bit before that in other parts of North America, and of course China back in November, even earlier than that. So at this point, we could have nipped this in the bud and been done with it if everybody went and got vaccinated at the very beginning. As soon as the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were available, if everyone went and got it, we'd be done with this. And these vaccines would already be shipped off to other parts of the world, like Africa and Asia, where the pandemic is 10 times worse than it is here. India is fucked. The Middle East is fucked. Africa is what do you even say about Africa? I mean, Africa is like at the lowest rung of the totem pole in terms of how horrible their situation is in dealing with COVID. So it's really fucking frustrating that these people here in Canada and in the United States and in England, places where these are the richest countries on earth and they're doing fairly well comparatively to the rest of the world, are the ones who are hogging the vaccine but also have the most virulent anti-vax movements. The only other thing I want to say as a stipulation to all of this is that there are certain communities in these countries where there is anti-vax sentiment and it makes sense, it's legitimate. For example, Black Americans. There is history of Black Americans being experimented on with vaccines and cures for I think syphilis and maybe some other things too, back in the in the Cold War era. So there's a distinct mistrust amongst Black Americans of the United States government, and it's very well founded. It's for good fucking reason. You can say the exact same thing about Indigenous people in America and First Nations people here in Canada as well. So these people have genuine reason to be mistrusting of the COVID vaccine, and when you see people in power targeting those communities specifically, it comes across as very obviously and blatantly racist, or at the very least most charitably misinformed. But there's no reason, if you're a white Canadian and you don't have any symptom, because I do know some people who have had bad reactions to the vaccine. I will admit that. There are some people, they get an enlarged heart, they get blood clots, and sometimes they don't know this until they take the vaccine. So if you're one of those people, you get your first shot and you get that symptom, I understand if you don't want to get the second dose. And I think you should be given a medical exemption and still be allowed to go around to do all those things that I'm able to do as somebody who has the second dose. But the people who are just being fucking conspiracy nuts and thinking that vaccines are fascism, you guys can go fuck yourselves. I think you're holding us all back. We could have been done with this months ago if it wasn't for you people. So fuck you. Let's just fucking nip this shit in the bud. I'm so fucking sick of this shit. The worst part about it is that I know there's nothing I can say that can convince you. I know there's no reasonable argument I can say to a conspiracy theorist or an anti-vaxxer to convince you to get the vaccine. It's the people who are sitting in the fence, on the fence in the middle, who are the ones that can be convinced. And listen, the thing is, I know that you don't trust the government. I realize that there's a lot of incentive to not trust the government. I mean, why would you? There's no reason why the Canadian government or the American government can be trusted. But just think about it for 2 seconds. Who does this benefit? Okay? If the vaccine is indeed used as a tool of control, and masks are used as a tool of control, how and why? Who does this benefit? Okay? Because we've seen thousands upon thousands of businesses close, and we've seen thousands of people die. It's in the hundreds of thousands now in the United States. There was a time where 9/11 just passed. I don't know what anniversary it was, but there was a point where we were experiencing basically a 9/11 every day. That's fucked. So when you have a country that is basically an oligarchy and is run by corporations, why would those corporations want these people to die? Why would these corporations want to eradicate their customer base? Like, we're already enslaved to wages, to advertising, and to these companies. They got us by the balls. Why do they want to kill us? Why would they want to eradicate us? They already have control. That's why this logic doesn't work. That's why being an anti-vaxxer doesn't make sense. They don't cause fucking autism. They're not going to implant a 5G chip in your fucking skin. It's bullshit. So please just do yourself a favor, do all of us a favor, and if you want to live in this society, get a fucking vaccine so that we can go back to life as it is and allow the human race to go extinct from climate change as opposed to COVID. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of The Skull Mug. Realize it's a bit of a dour topic, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot and it's got me fucking pissed off. So, cheers. Until next time.